Hello guys, welcome back to narsicloud.com. Um, Today we'll be going over the topic called security groups. So before we dive into security groups, let's review what we have learned so far from the beginning. We'll quickly go over all the slides we have discussed so far. So basically we started with the cloud concepts. So we discussed what is cloud and how the machines will be organized in the cloud, how we can use that. So I will be connecting to the machines to the cloud through cloud interface. We'll be using the cloud services, and there will be an interface, and you'll have a lot of services like that. And then after that, we looked into how we can create an account in AWS. So we discussed about different types of cloud providers and account creation process. So we quickly gone through the steps and created all the account, and then after that we have taken the compute category in AWS interface. So there we discussed about what is EC2 instance and how we can create it. So this is what the EC2 instance in the cloud. These are the machines. This is the hardware in the cloud, and we can create. Once you create EC2 instance, that's gonna end up on one of these hardwares. It is just a virtual machine. So we quickly discussed about the basic concepts of the CPU hardware, and then we looked into how we can do SSH into EC2 instance. And then we talked about different purchasing options of EC2, reserved instances, which is to reserve the compute capacity. Then we can utilize that whenever we need it. Schedule instances is same as reserved, but it's for the specific period of time. We will schedule it, and it will be done after that. Spot instances where you bid for the price, and then when the market price goes down below your bid price, then you'll get the opportunity to use that machine. And here dedicated hosts and dedicated instances, so you can reserve your you can purchase your dedicated hardware, and it's all yours, and nobody will be sharing that hardware. So that's what the dedicated machine is. And then after that we discussed about the main features of EC2. um, and then we created EC2 instance in the cloud, and then we have talked about how we can utilize that. We installed Apache Web Server, and we created a sample HTML page under the var/www/html directory in the EC2 instance, and then we accessed that from the internet. So this is the diagram that we discussed in the last video. So we created the EC2 machine instance here, and then using the cloud interface, and then we created the HTML page in the directory, and then we accessed that page from this from the browser. So from the internet we are able to use that EC2 machine. So that's where we concluded in our last session. So today we'll be talking about the security groups. So here if you see this machine was not secured, so anybody can access that machine, which means anybody would be able to access the page that I created. So there is no rules at all. Anybody can access that. So that's no good, right? We don't want our machine to be accessible to the world. It's only to be accessed to the defined people and to the defined machines, right? So there is some way that we have to provide that security. So that's where these security groups come into picture. So AWS provided the concept called security groups. So let's discuss, we'll come back to this diagram later. Let's discuss what is a security group. So security group is just a virtual firewall where you can impose a lot of rules into that security group, and then you can attach that security group to one instance or multiple instances, or how many number of instances that you want. So basically that's a separate entity. You create security group, That's all in its own entity, and then you attach that to the EC2 instance. So if you remember the steps when we created the EC2 instance machine, there is a step called attaching the security group to it. So that's where you can attach a security group to the EC2 machine. So I will show you in a bit. So that's what the security group is. It's just a bunch of rules. So the rules look like the so one rule one let's say one rule is like a SSH rule, which means anybody could if you add that rule to that security group, anybody could do SSH into that machine. If they have .pm file, they can do SSH into that machine. That's one rule. Another rule is HTTP. You can add a rule called HTTP rule, and the port number is 80. So anybody could access any page on that. If any server is serving up the page from that EC2 machine, they can access that page because port 80 is allowed to come into that machine. So that's the kind of concept. I will show you exactly how we can do that. So um, so that's what the what and why security group. Why we that's what is security group and why security group. That means it's obvious that to provide security, to provide some constraints around the machine, so that only authorized machines will be able to access that machine, that EC2 instance. So that's what the basic concept of the security group. It's very easy actually. So let's go to the AWS console, and we'll go over what the creating security group and attaching that to EC2 instance, and then we'll go over all these concepts. Then it will be very clear for you guys. So let's go to console. So here, this is the machine that we created in our last video, and this is EC2 instance running, and you can see the public um, DNS available. Now let's go to security groups. Which security group is attached to it? So this is the security group. Uh, Security groups launch wizard one. So that's created by default with this name. So to see the rules around that security group, click on that. You go to security group here. So this is what we created, and then if you see inbound rules, there is a rule called type SSH and the TCP protocol and the port range 22. The source is 000/0, which means any mission is allowed to do SSH to connect to this mission. So that's what it means. So it's just an inbound one. There is only one rule, and if you look at the outbound, all traffic. So any request can go out from this mission. That's what it means. All port ranges. So inbound means the requests that come into this mission. Into this mission means the EC2 instance that you created in the cloud, right? So let's quickly test. Um, so there is only one role, which will allow only SSH port, right? So now, if you remember in our last video, we created a web page and sample HTML page, and we are able to access that from the internet, right? So if we go into this is the machine, and I already SSH'd into this machine. So let me come out of that. How I did that? So this is my machine now, my local machine, right? So how I did SSH-I. I have the narsicloud.pm file, which is created when I created this EC2 machine, and then EC2 user at the public domain address, right? I do SSH into that, and we created a sample HTML page in this. See, index.html, what is out there. Slash, and then so it just has a basic h1 tag and the paragraph tag, and then sudo service. Let's see, we install um, Apache web server, right? In our last video. So service HTTPD status. So that's running. Now let's try to access that page. We go to instances, go here, take this public IP address and index.html. Let's take this. So index.html site can be reached. Why is that? Because port 80 is not allowed into the security group. So let's open this in the new page. So if you look at the inbound rules, it is allowing only type SSH and the port range is 22, right? But when you try to access this is on port 80. This is HTTP type, right? So it's still connecting. So that means it's not allowing. So that's what the security group, right? Security group, we just created a rule into it, and then it's not accessible publicly to the world. So let's see how we can do that. This is the security group I was discussing in that diagram. So if you go here, description, you can see the group name, then group ID, group description, all this stuff, and then inbound rules, and then click edit. Here you can add a new rule to it. See, it's gonna take the effect, take that rule into effect immediately. So you go here, add HTTP, right, and then save it. Now if we go refresh this, see, it just popped up. So that means you allowed, you didn't touch anything with the EC2 instance, right? You directly went to the security group section and then you added a new rule to it. And since that security group is already attached to that EC2 instance, then it is automatically taken care. It is into the effect immediately, and the requests after that change, the requests with HTTP type are able to get into that EC2 instance. And if I go ahead and remove that HTTP, remove it and save it. Now try to access it. See, it's not connecting. Let me open up the new browser, the new window. Here, see, it's not connecting. So it is that easy to modify the rules. You can update whenever you want. You can add bunch of rules to it. So that will take the effect immediately. So that's very easy actually. So there is a so where do we create the security groups, right? So if you go, so this is all the compute section. Under compute section, let's go to the services first. This is the home page. You come to EC2. This is in the compute category, and then click on EC2. In the EC2, you go to, you can see all the running instances and all different types of resources here. And under network and security, the security groups is one of the section. Go there. So here you can create a bunch of security groups. So you can click on create security group. Then here test demo, just simple name. This is by default VPC. Don't worry about this section right now. VPC. I will explain you what is VPC. So VPC stands for Virtual Private Cloud. That is a different concept of creating machines, and you can create a virtual private cloud, and you can have all your machines within that private cloud. So I will go over all those concepts in the upcoming videos. So for now, just select the default ones, and then you add rule to it. Let's say if I just have to have HTTP, and then create. More fields are invalid, so you need to provide the demo, provide the description, demo, and then create. So you created that, and then now if you want to create new machine, and how we can attach this security group to EC2 instance, right? So you go to EC2 instance and then launch instance, free trial eligible, select that, Then next, configuration details. So here these are all default details, just leave them alone. And then click on next, add tags, don't worry about that. Configure security group. So here, create new security group, or select an existing security group, right? So we can select this one, and then it just has only HTTP, review, launch, continue, launch. I choose the existing key pair, launch instances. Now see, so the security group that we attached to this EC2 instance, that group doesn't have rule of type SSH, right? It has only HTTP type. Now if I try to do SSH into it, I won't be able to do it. Let me show you that. It takes a little bit of time. Okay, still initializing. So far you understand, right, the concept of security group. Just a separate entity. I created that separately and then added some rules to it, and then I came to EC2 section, launch instance, and in one of the steps I attached that EC2 instance to that security group. Now once it is created, see here, this test demo is attached to this EC2 instance. Now it's in running state, right? Now if we go to my terminal, since I have that key pair already in my directory, I should be able to do SSH into this mission, right? Let me try that. That's a key pair, and then EC2 user at, see, I'm not able to do that because it just spins around, round, round, and then it will fail eventually. That's because it doesn't have SSH type rule. Now cancel that, go to security group test demo, and then click on this, click on inbound, edit, and then add rule to it, SSH, and then custom, that's fine, or yeah, just provide custom actually. Save. Source needs a CIDR block. I think it requires this. Okay, anywhere, and then save it. I saved it, right? Now go back here, then do set. See, I'm able to do SSH into this new machine. So that's all the concept of security group. This is very basic concept of security group. So if you go here, edit section, you can add different types of rules. There are a bunch of rules here, so you can go over, when you get a chance, just go over the documentation, try to understand each one of this. But you got the concept, right? This is a very basic concept of creating security group, adding rules to it. That's it. Just a virtual firewall which would secure your EC2 instances. There could be any number of instances. So with this knowledge, right, let's go to the PPT now. So here we did the demo and we understand the architecture of security group, on how do we create it, how do we attach that to EC2 instance. So here, so basically there are two types of security groups. So it's EC2 Classic, EC2 VPC. So what is EC2 Classic? The one which we just created, that's EC2 Classic machine. So EC2 Classic, you attach that security group at the time of creation, and like we did just now, I chose my test demo and then I selected that and I launched new instance, right? It got attached to that EC2 instance. So for the EC2 Classic, once you attach security group, you cannot change it. What that means, I cannot reassign that EC2 instance to some other security group. I can't do that. But what I can do is, in the same security group, I can modify the rules. So I can do that. So that's what with the EC2 Classic. So basically, if you go here to explain that clearly, I go here. Here you see the security group, launch wizard, right? So this is a different machine. The one which I created just now is this. So you see the security group is test demo, right? So I cannot change this to be some other group. This will be for this EC2 classic mission, but I can go here, I can do whatever I want. I can define whatever the rules I would like to, and I can delete some of the rules. I can still do that. So that's what with EC2 classic, and EC2 VPC is completely different concept. So I will go over that concept in detail in the upcoming video series, because there is a completely different section for VPC. So but I will tell you the basic description of EC2 VPC. So basically here in EC2 classic, you created the security group and attached that to the EC2 instance itself directly. But in EC2 VPC, you create a VPC separate group, and then you attach and then you attach security group to the VPC, and then since and then you create your EC2 instances in that VPC basically. So it's a EC2 machine, VPC, right? And then you have a security group, and then security group is attached to the VPC. So we are not directly dealing with EC2 instance here. So that for that reason, I can change my security groups anytime I want. I can completely create a new security group and attach that to the VPC. So EC2 instance will take that things into the effect. So that's the difference between EC2 Classic and EC2 VPC. So let's not worry about more detail about it. I'll go over that in the upcoming video series. So let's go over what is security group rules. So security group rules are, so there are two sections in the EC2 group security group section, right? There are inbound and outbound rules. So inbound rules, let's say that you defined HTTP rule type, and then when the request comes, because you define the rule to allow all the requests of type HTTP. So any request that comes in, that's allowed to come into EC2 instance, the response for that request can go irrespective of outbound rules to any mission. So you cannot, so once you allow inbound request, the response is automatically allowed to go out. You cannot restrict the response itself not to go out. So that is one rule. It's the same case with the outbound as well. So if you allow some request to go outbound, the response to that request can always come in irrespective of inbound rules. So those are the basic rules of a security group. And then so you can go over the documentation. There are a bunch of description about it, but you got the concept, right? It's all inbound and outbound rules. Based on that, things will be defined, and then any request that's allowed based on the inbound rules, the response for that request is automatically allowed to go outbound. You cannot define any rules to restrict that. So allow all outbound traffic. So the first thing is, by default in the outbound, all requests allowed to go out. So from the EC2 instance, I can by default, when you create EC2 machine with a security group, by default you're allowed to go outbound. So if you want to change that, you'll go to that section, you add new rules to it for the outbound. So like I was describing in the EC2 Classic, you cannot change the security group for EC2 Classic. Once you attach it, that's attached. All you can do is you can update the rules for that EC2 instance, rules for that security group, so that new security rules will be implemented for that EC2 instance. So always permissive. So always permissive is what that means is basically whatever you define in the security groups, that means here I defined some rules, right? Whatever the ports are defined, they're all allowed. So you cannot define something that these machines will be restricted. You cannot define such rules here. If you define some rule, that means it's always allowing that. So what that means, I define HTTP here. That means all requests of type HTTP are allowed. If I define SSH means all request types of all requests of type SSH are allowed. I cannot define something like SSH is allowed and HTTP is not allowed. It's not like that. It's all permissive. It means all are allowed. So that's what the always permissive means. Update the rules at any time, which means, like I described just before, that you can go ahead and update rules whenever you want. That will take effect immediately. That's what it means. So next thing is default security groups. So if you see here in the security group section, there is a default security group. So you cannot delete that or you can't do anything with it, but you can use that. So that's all the default security group. So and then the next section is custom security groups. So when you create first time when you create EC2 instances, you can go ahead and use the default security group that comes automatically in the security group section, or you can create a new custom security group like we did, right? Test demo is a custom security group, so we can create a custom security group and we can attach that to our EC2 instances. So that's what the custom security group means. So basically here you can create as many number of security groups as you want. There is some limit actually around 500 security groups, I guess, but you can find that in the documentation. But the concept is you can create multiple security groups and you can attach all those security groups to EC2 instance. So when you attach multiple security groups to the EC2 instance, what it does is it aggregates all the rules into one group, and that's how it's gonna filter the requests based on those rules. That's what happens behind the scenes. Um, so let's see what is left. It's all easy, right? The you understand this picture that we have discussed this in our last video as well. So you created EC2 instance, and we in this video we created a security group and attached to that machine. And now the requests, we have also seen that the request we are not able to um, connect to this machine because we did not attach the rule to that security group of type we did not attach the rule of type SSH to that security group, so we were not able to SSH, right? So and then we added that as the SSH type to it, and then we were able to do it. So it was that easy to create security groups and attach to your EC2 instances and secure it. This is one way of securing EC2 machines. In respect to security, there are a lot of concepts. So we will go over when it comes to other sections in the cloud interface. So I'll be going over all the details later in the video series. But this video intention is to explain you what is security group and what kind of things you do with security group, and how you can use that security group to secure your EC2 instances, and how we can update the rules so that based on the things that's happening in our company, we can impose more rules to the security group so that all the cloud will be automatically taken care by the AWS. So yeah, that's all I have for today. And in the upcoming video we'll be going over more into this network and security section, which is a very important section. Actually everything in EC2 is very important because the cloud itself is all dealing with machines. If you know if you know how you can secure it more and more, and how we can do more things at the network level so that your thing is very secure, um, so in that you will be very comfortable in suggesting companies and how they can build their architecture and stuff. So yeah, that's all I have for today, guys. Stay tuned for the upcoming videos, and please do go through the documentation and try to elaborate your knowledge, and please post your questions as well. Any comments, I will try to answer them as soon as possible. And If you like this video, please do click on like button, and if you don't subscribe yet, please do subscribe, and you will get to see a lot more videos like this on many technologies. And keep learning, and have a good day. Thank you.